been so stuck in my head that I forget just about everything my therapist said. Maybe I'm self-helpless.
Hey everyone, welcome to Self-Helpless. I'm Delanie Fischer, and today I'm chatting with Brittany Moore, who is the spouse of Steve Moore, who was on a past episode of Self-Helpless, sharing about his experience with porn addiction. And on that episode, he shared how it started, how it affected his life and the people around him, what recovery has been like, and how he since has become a therapist who specializes in helping individuals and partners who are experiencing the same addiction and its impact. So today, Brittany is sharing about her experience being married to someone who has struggled with porn addiction, how it affected her, what's helped her heal, and how it's impacted her marriage. Brittany and Steve have now been married for over 20 years. So she walks us through several phases of their relationship, including when she found out about Steve's issues with porn, to considering leaving the relationship, to getting support. And then we also talk about present day, for which Brittany shares that for many years now, they've been thriving in this newfound relationship of theirs. And I just want to say, obviously, Brittany's story is just one person's personal experience with this. Some people know about their loved one's issue with porn up front. For others, it's kept from them and they find out in a very upsetting way. Some have active sex lives with their partner, others, sex completely drops off. There might be accompanying addictions or an underlying disorder for some. Others, that's not the case. Some people choose to leave their relationship, some people stay. However, although this is Brittany's unique experience, there are themes that are really helpful that everyone can benefit from if you believe that you or someone you care about is experiencing this. Also, highly recommend checking out the episode Steve was on with his colleague Mark after you're done with Brittany's episode, which will be linked in the show notes for you. All right, here is Brittany Moore. How did you meet Steve and what drew you to him in the first place?
We actually met in high school. He was a year above me, and we were in symphony together. I played the violin, he was a percussionist, and me
Love
and my
it.
entire friend group just had the biggest crush on him. And he didn't even know I was alive. But then we started hanging out on the same groups of people, and I was just like crushing on him from afar. And one day, I was sitting in the library with my friends, and we drew straws on who would get to pursue him first.
Oh my
I wasn't even
gosh.
there, but I won because they drew for me.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, we just started hanging out, and then we dated for a couple months, and, at the time, I thought he was way too clingy, and I was like, let's just be friends." So we became really good friends, and then he went on an LDS mission, and I went to college, and when he came home, I actually had a boyfriend, and I flew home for Thanksgiving and, saw him, and it was like this switch flipped in my brain, and I was like, "I wanna be more than friends with you." Anyway, long story short, I found out my boyfriend was a dork, so I let him go, and then he started dating some other people because I was only 20 and I did not want to get married young. I had
Yeah.
all these plans, and marriage was not on the docket until, like, the end of my 20s or early 30s. But, as fate would have it, I wanted him, and he found out the people he was dating, he wasn't into them as much as he was into me, and so one day I was like, "Hey, just to let you know, I'd like to marry you." And he's like, "Okay." And so, we got engaged around Valentine's Day the next year, and then we were married 6 months later.
Oh my gosh. So how old were you when you got married?
So I was 20.
So you didn't get married
Yeah,
young.
like I said, we tried not to get married.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
Oh
"We can
my
date casually, and you
gosh.
can date these other people, but when it's right, it's right." And so I was 20, he was 22,
Yeah.
and we got married.
I mean, when your fate is defined by pulling a straw, you have to follow
I mean,
through.
right? It's
Oh
true.
my gosh, that's so cute. I didn't know you guys met in high school. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So, shifting, I guess, forward a bit. I mean, before you discovered what was going on with him, did you notice
Mhm.
changes in his behaviors leading up to it, or was he acting the same as he always did since, you guys were in high school or started dating?
Yeah. So the nice thing is I have something that unfortunately a lot of betrayed spouses don't have, in that my husband was never really a liar, and he didn't keep
Mhm.
things from me. Even before we got engaged, like when we started dating seriously, he told me that he had a porn addiction.
Yeah.
Or he didn't call it we didn't know it was an addiction back then. He'd had issues with porn.
Okay.
And so for me, I was just like, that's amazing. Like, here's this man that I love, and he's telling me his deepest, darkest secrets, and that's great. And he made it sound like it was in the past,
Okay.
because he hadn't had issues for several years. And so I was like, I love him even more because he's being honest with me. And
Yeah.
so I'd say the first year and a half to 2 years of our marriage was absolute bliss. Like, I could not have been happier. He
Okay.
started using porn again, and he told me the very first time.
Oh,
He came to
wow.
me and he's like, "Hey, babe, I want to let you know I watched porn. I don't want to get back into it, so I'm going to do XYZ to keep myself away from it." And again, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, my
Right.
husband is the best
Transparency.
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Fast forward about 7 years later, he still was transparent with me, but everything he would try, quote unquote, it just wasn't working. And he kept getting more and more into it. And then I started noticing his personality started to change. And he
Yeah.
went from being my sweet, loving, patient, fun husband to the exact opposite. Super critical, super judgmental of everyone just in the world,
Mm.
not just me. He was always just really irritable, grumpy. We started having arguments that were pretty intense that we'd never had before. And one day I was at work and he called me to tell me he'd used porn again. And I was just like, I laid it out on the line for him. I was just like, I was like, honey, I don't honestly, I really don't care that you're watching porn. Like, that for me, that's just not a thing.
Mm.
However, I do think it's changing your personality, and I'm not happy in our marriage.
Yeah.
And you have to try something different. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say it needs to be something you haven't tried before, because nothing you've tried has worked.
Yeah.
And this needs to change because I'm not happy in our marriage. This is not the marriage I want. And so that's when he started trying some things that started working.
Okay, could we get into that? Like, what kind of things was he trying on his
Yeah.
own those 7 years
Okay.
that were not working? And then what did?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So he would try, like, he went and worked with our ecclesiastical leader for a while. He went to like 2 therapy sessions, and then he was like, that's not for me," which is hilarious
Mhm.
because he's a therapist. Um,
Incredible.
right? He did like a couple of online programs. He read a few books,
Mm.
things like that. And then, but nothing just really stuck because he was still trying to keep it all to himself. He wasn't really reaching out to other people and having a support system and things like that. And so when I said try something new, he decided to try Sexaholics Anonymous, which is
Okay.
a traditional 12-step program.
Right.
And if you ask, I mean, I know you've spoken to him. I'm not sure if you mentioned this,
Yeah.
but he started going really to like get me off of his back and
Mhm.
to kind of postpone the inevitable end of our marriage. That's what he thought. But after, a couple of months, he was completely sober. He had no desire to look at porn or masturbate. And he's like, wait a second, like, this is actually working for me. And he decided to work the 12 steps. He got a sponsor, and pretty soon, like, it was 2 years later, and that's the longest it had ever been in his life that he'd not acted out. I think about a year into him, going to SA and working the steps, we started doing individual therapy, because I had several issues with men just from trauma from my past. He had
Yeah.
issues because he had lots of trauma from his past in different ways. His dad died in a plane crash. He had cancer twice, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we did that. And then we decided to do couples counseling. For us, it was really the focus was helping us learn how to communicate, because one of the things that came with the change in personality is he became emotionally abusive, which
Yeah.
neither of us knew. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But when it was pointed out to us, I felt so much shame because I remember watching my mom be in all these different relationships growing up, and that were abusive in lots of different ways. And I remember promising myself that I would never have that kind of relationship. And here I was
Mm.
in this emotionally abusive relationship. And Steve just felt like a horrible person. At first, he fought it. He's like, no, like, there's no way I'm emotionally abusing my wife. But then he started to accept it. So we really started working on how we communicated so that we would not get into that cycle of emotional abuse.
Right.
And we worked on my betrayal trauma, which was from that. That's what my betrayal trauma was from. Was I had this beautiful, amazing husband who treated me like a queen, and then he treated me like crap. Like that was my betrayal trauma. He was working on his anger, because that's which underneath was like sadness, fear, feelings of inadequacy, like finding out like why he was doing all these things. And really like for him getting to the root cause of why he turned to porn in the first place.
Right.
Because if you know anything about porn, it's just like any other drug. It's a coping mechanism used to escape or
Right.
soothe or and so he started getting to the root causes of why he turned to that at such a young age. And we were in therapy for, oh my gosh, I don't even know how long, years, working on all of these things. And then we thought we'd, hit all the things that we need to hit. But I still found that he hadn't yet gotten to the root causes. He still wasn't quite my husband, but he was better. But by this time, we'd been married for 13 years, 14 years, like a long time.
Yeah.
And I was just getting kind of tired of not feeling completely fulfilled in my relationship, even though we'd done all this work. And oh, I should mention, I also started going to S-Anon, which is
Okay.
for family and friends of sexaholics, kind of like
Okay.
AA and Al-Anon. It's SA and
Right.
S-Anon. So I started going to S-Anon, and but it took me a while to work the steps. Anyway, so we get to this point, and I met a guy at work, and I ended up having, well, Steve calls it an emotional affair. I call it on the cusp of an emotional affair. That's okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna agree, disagree on that one. But
Yeah.
basically, I wasn't being faithful to my husband in our marriage in an emotional way, and so, or I was heading down that precipice, and so he found out, and that caused all sorts of trauma for him, understandably so. And
Mm.
so then we went to therapy to find out, like, why was I wanting to get emotionally involved with someone else, and how could I repair this betrayal that now my husband now has betrayal trauma because of me. And so now like we both have betrayal trauma, and it's this big thing. And so it wasn't until then that he really got into the root causes of why he was the way he was, and I got to the root causes of what do I need in my relationship to feel actually happy.
Mm.
And then we worked on that in therapy for several years. And for the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years. It's our marriage isn't perfect by any means, but I can honestly say that I'm genuinely happy. I don't
Yeah.
ever think about ending the relationship or wanting to be in a different relationship. And I feel like we've learned and we honor who we are as individuals, and we try to help each other meet goals, which is something I felt like he had never done before. Like, for example, I love to travel. It's one of my passions, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll go, but it's not a big deal." And he never really understood why I wanted to travel, and he thought it was kind of dumb. And so I
Mm.
didn't feel supported. So, like, for example, that's one thing that he's changed. He's like, "Babe, I know that like travel is one of your love languages. So, like, what do you think about doing this or going there or whatever?"
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm turning 40 next month. And for my 40th birthday, he surprised me, and he's sending me and my identical twin sister, and who's also
Ah,
turning 40, obviously. And
nice.
yeah, and my 6-month-old baby girl to
Oh
Florida
my
for a week
gosh.
just to sit on the beach,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
so nice.
because he
Yeah.
knows me, and he knows like that's important to me. And then I've learned what works for him. And the biggest thing for him since the betrayal trauma that I inflicted on him is really being as transparent and open with him about my feelings as possible, because the pattern that I got into was I had so much fear about how he was going to react, because his
Right.
reactions were angry and loud and in your face, that I would either not tell the whole story, or I would keep some of it away from him, or I just wouldn't tell him things because I was trying to manage that. But
Yeah.
that made him feel like I don't even know my wife. She's not being completely honest and transparent with me. And I'm not perfect at it. I still have to work on it because I do have that fear, even though it's been years and years since he's had a huge, reaction, because he knows how to emotionally regulate himself now. So it's a practice. We have the tools. We've both worked the 12 steps now with sponsors. That has been life-changing. That in and of itself has been the biggest life-changing thing I've ever done. Like, therapy was great, and I
Yeah.
think you need both. For me, I needed both. For me, 12 step was what brought me to my higher power, and brought me to the realization that I had a lot of higher power trauma, that I actually didn't know about until I started working my steps. And I felt really alone in my life. And I felt like my higher power was like, you are a super capable woman. So you got this. Like, I'm not going to help you. Like, I'm up here, I'm watching you, but you got it. And it made me feel very abandoned. Like, I understand I'm a capable woman, but I need your help. So I had to deal with all of that higher power trauma or issues, whatever you want to call it. But the biggest thing for me has been learning that my higher power, first of all, who my higher power is in my day to day life and in very personal ways, because it's given me this foundation of it doesn't matter what happens. It truly does not matter what happens in my life or in my relationship. Like my higher power has my back.
Right.
And for me, that has been the biggest transformation. And it's given me a lot of courage just in living life in general.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. You hit on
Yeah.
a question that I had for you, which was you mentioned that your past experiences of seeing like your mom go through different relationships and then you found yourself kind of in something emotionally abusive. Did you have an awareness through those years like, I have a high tolerance for this kind of thing. Am I in a similar situation, or did it look different enough to you to think this is totally separate? This is a totally separate thing that I'm dealing with in my marriage than, maybe my mother dealt with.
Yeah. The latter. I had
Okay.
no, I didn't
Wow.
even cross my mind that it was emotionally abusive, which is
Yeah.
why I think it was such a, my mind was blown when it was pointed out to me.
Right. And I think people hear that word, and I think it's incredible that both of you have been able to admit that, because that is a really hard
Yeah.
thing to admit. And I think people have this idea when they hear the word abuse, that is like this black and white thing where you know when it's happening and you know when it's not present, and it's really easy to point out. And so I'm curious to know if you're able to share some of the things that have been considered emotional abuse in your marriage with your therapist and stuff, just to help people kind of maybe identify what might be happening with them.
Yeah, yeah. I am a very just by nature, I'm a very patient person, and I'm not one to, like, yell or get angry super easily, and so I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't realize it. I was just like, "Oh, my husband's having a rough time right now." But anyway, this
Mm.
is what it looked like in our relationship. We would have a discussion about something. You could pick anything, and he would either blow up, so that looked like him yelling or swearing, because he's not, well, he used to not be a swearer. He is now, but that's whatever. Like, I don't care anymore as long as it's not in our arguments.
Right.
Um, but he would, be cursing. He would start telling me I'm wrong.
Mm,
So if I had a differing point of view, I was always wrong.
mm.
I didn't realize that was emotional abuse, but it is. He would start calling, it would usually, a lot of times it'd be with my family members that he doesn't agree with. He would start calling them names or saying they were stupid or whatever. He would just make me feel like I was dumb. And I
Mm.
am not dumb. I'm a very intelligent, very independent woman. I've had a career for 20 years doing something really difficult. And so, but he would make me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about. And so I'd
Yeah.
question myself. So it was really the yelling, the telling you you're wrong, and basically just like not honoring my opinions or things like that. It's like I didn't matter. They didn't matter. Like he was always right. And he would let me know in very strong terms.
Yeah.
That's what most of the abuse looked like.
Yeah. What is your career?
Well, I'm a stay-at-home mom now,
Okay.
which is like the hardest job I've ever had. I don't know why we're not paid for this. Yeah, but for the 20 years before I decided to stay home with my daughter, at least for now, I was an IT project manager. So
Oh,
I worked in
okay.
technology.
Yeah.
I worked in lots of different spaces from computer hardware to cryptocurrency to um, artificial intelligence to entertainment, like all over the
Wow.
board, but just
Wow.
technology. Yeah.
Wild. Oh my gosh. Your brain works
Yeah.
very differently than mine. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I barely know how to work my phone." This dynamic in your marriage is, I feel like, very unusual, like rare, the fact that there was this transparency early on from him, like, "Hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I keep doing. letting you know, for a lot of people, they have no idea what's going on. And because it can look like so many different things, right? It's like, do they have ADHD? Are they on the autism spectrum? Because I can't have a conversation with them anymore. And then also because there's so many other like addictive things that can be, I guess, like comorbid with it, where
Yeah.
whether it's alcohol or marijuana, gaming, all these
Hmm.
things that they might think it's the visible addiction, but they don't see the secret addiction. So only one thing is kind of being treated. I mean, I even heard like it's called the trifecta because it's so normal that gaming, weed, and porn are like the three best buddies hanging out, right? Like it's so,
Totally.
so
Yeah.
normal. So was there a point for you where you're like, is it just the porn? Is something else going on? Is there some other, I don't know, disorder or like other addiction that you may not know about? Like what was going through your head, or were you always like, it is absolutely this thing and only this thing?
So it was probably a mix of that and gaming for Steve.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he
Gotcha.
definitely had, yeah, he had a gaming addiction, where he would, so we didn't have children until 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's when we had our first child, and
Yeah.
we've been married for 20 years this year, and I worked full time, he worked full time, but I noticed, like, instead of, like, us coming home and, like, being together and hanging out for a while before we went and had our whatever time, he would just play games all night.
Mm.
And not only that, but he would stay up till like 4, 5, 6 a.m. playing games. And
Yeah.
then usually that's when the porn use would happen too, is when I was
Right.
asleep. So it was definitely both of those things. And again, I didn't have the language of addiction. I didn't know that
Right.
until we went to 12 step and therapy. I just knew he had a porn problem and a gaming problem. And so
Okay.
that's how I would talk to him about it. Like, hey, I'd like to spend some time with you. Like, can we go do this?
Right.
That's what it looked like. He played games way too much and he was way emotionally reactive.
Wow, it's so interesting that those like the gaming and the porn are so heavily linked. And like you said, they kind of feed into each other. Like you're at the computer, you're at the, you're in that setting. And I guess the way that it's, I don't know, impacting the brain can be very similar too. But
Totally.
so many people don't know that. And they don't even know to ask or look for it. Not that it's their responsibility to like do the digging.
Sure.
But was there ever a moment in the relationship where you felt like, I don't know if I could stay in this? Like, I might have to leave this. And what did that look like for you? And do you feel like that impacted his behavior at all?
Yeah, so the first time it was about 7 years in
Right.
when he called me at work and I was like, "I can't do this anymore." I think the bigger time though was like right after the emotional affair,
Mhm.
because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I don't even know myself." Like I didn't
Mm,
even know I was this unhappy in my marriage, but maybe I am and maybe I do need to do something different. That was the probably the bigger wake up call because by that time we'd been working on things for a while, and we've been married for several, over a decade by that point.
yeah.
Um, and it was also I wrestled back and forth with it, because even though we were working on it, he wasn't perfect, I wasn't perfect. So he would still get emotionally reactive. I would still, withhold information. But especially during times where he wasn't perfect and he would be emotionally reactive, or emotionally abusive, I would be like, "What the hell am I doing in this relationship? I'm
Mm,
an independent woman," because I was the breadwinner for a while. But I was like, I don't have kids. Like, what am I doing here? I could easily go off and do whatever I want.
mm,
But I think the thing that kept me in the relationship was I did truly love my husband. I knew that deep down behind all of the crap, he's such an amazing man and I could see that potential. But bigger than that, it was his willingness to work on it. Because
right.
I think you can see a man or a woman, whatever your relationship is, and see that they have so much potential, but that's not enough.
Right.
They have to be willing to work on it and actually show you by action.
Right.
And so those are the things that kept me in the marriage. And I remember when I very first started working my 12 steps, that was a point where I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm over this. And my sponsor at the time was like, if you're done, you're done. Like, I'm not going to say stay in your marriage. However, I really recommend that you truly work the steps for a year before you make that decision. And that was the best advice for me that I received, because if I would have called it quits, I would have missed out on so much beauty and healing and growth in my relationship, and so many dreams of mine that have come true that we've done together or that he's helped make happen. And I would have missed out on all of it. But again, it's only because I saw the willingness and I saw the action,
Right.
and that's what kept me in it. And then the fact that I had had so many friends who had ended up divorcing their partner, and they would tell me, because I think it's normal, especially in the situation, for you to go back and forth, like, should I stay? Should I go? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, especially if you have kids, like, should I stay for the kids? I don't know. Um, and I was like, if it's time for me to go, how am I going to know?
Right.
Like, am I always going to second guess myself, or how am I going to know that it's time? And I would watch these friends go through that, the back and forth. And then when it was time, they said that they just knew.
Mm.
Like their higher power just let them know, like, it's time, you've done enough, like, it's time to move on. And so I really grasped onto that concept, like, hey, if it's time for me to ever really leave, I'm just gonna know. I'm not gonna second guess it, and I will
Right.
do it. But and I never got that.
Yeah.
And so here I am, and in an awesome marriage.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you, like, did you have any kind of internal guidelines or deadlines for yourself? Like, if I don't see this by this date, I'm gonna have to reevaluate this relationship. But you really went off of the feeling. Like, if it's time to leave, I will know, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what people say. And I definitely felt this too. When you know that you want to be with somebody, you just get that feeling. I don't know how I know it, but it is. It's a definite thing.
I did have very specific boundaries,
Mm,
that if this either happened or didn't happen, like, I was done. I don't want people listening to feel like it's healthy to stay in a relationship where things keep happening over and over and over, and even though there's little change, like, you aren't seeing big changes. I
yeah,
personally don't think that's healthy. That's not a
yeah.
relationship to stay in. But so I think it's very important to have those boundaries for yourself, to know, like, this is as far as I'm willing to go, and then I'm not willing to go any further.
That makes a lot of sense. So the emotional affair kind of situation on your end, did that were you
Mhm.
aware of maybe why that was why you were drawn to that? Did you feel really hurt by your husband? And was there anything like, well, I want to have this experience, you're having this over here? Or was it really just, I don't know, something that happened organically that you weren't aware of that maybe was missing in the relationship that you guys had together? What
Yeah.
kind of like reflections do you have on that now?
So it definitely happened organically. I was not aware at the time, because I'm a very open, loving person, and I
Yeah,
just love to get to know people on a deep level. That's just how I am.
right.
But I didn't realize that I was taking it too far until it got to a
Mm.
certain point. And then on the back end, this is after lots of therapy. I had the emotional affair for a couple of reasons. The first being, I mentioned that I felt there was a lot of self-betrayal for myself with the emotional affair, because again, I was like, how did I go down this road and, like, not even realize I was there? Like,
Right.
where was my head? Um, and so I felt like I betrayed myself, because I don't know, I wasn't listening to myself. But looking back, the biggest piece, the two biggest pieces that I've learned about why I went into that relationship is because, number one, when I was with this person and talking to him, it made me feel like my old self.
Mm,
It brought me back to the Brittany that I had known my whole life, and I hadn't felt that way for a long time. So, like cherished and confident and appreciated for my intelligence and my work ethic, and because I
right.
felt like I wasn't necessarily getting that from my husband all the way. So that was the first reason why, is because I felt like myself. And the second reason why was because I feel like Steve and I hadn't really gotten to the meat yet of what his addiction was all about.
Yeah.
And I felt hopeless. I didn't realize I felt hopeless, but I was like, we're never going to get there. Like, he's made a lot of progress. He's not acting out anymore. He's not emotionally abusive anymore. But I feel like he still hasn't done the work to get to the meat of it, which means we're always going to be dealing with this for the rest of our lives. Those two things, looking back, are the reasons why I was attracted to that relationship.
Mm. Makes a lot of sense. And what did your what did physical intimacy look like for you guys throughout all of this? Like knowing that this is happening, like he's watching porn and he's telling you about it. Like, did that get in your head? Did you want to kind of stay away from him in certain times? Did you feel like you had to compete with the porn, like sexually? A lot of people talk about that as well,
Hmm.
or feeling insecure. I mean, just anything that you're willing to share. I know it's a very
Sure.
personal question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an open book. So,
I appreciate you.
um, yeah, yeah. So I, for some reason, and I can't tell you why, but I didn't really feel like it affected our sex life.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know why. I know that's a common thing and it makes sense. But for whatever reason, I just felt like our sex life was always good from the beginning. And I felt like when we were in that space, he was present with me. I didn't feel like I was just a body he was having sex with. Um,
Yeah.
and he was always like, I know that my husband has always thought that that I'm beautiful. And he tells me that. He's told me that since I met him, and I believed him. And so I guess I kind of had that confidence. Like I believe him that he thinks I'm beautiful and he's attracted to me.
Right.
So for me, the reason why he was looking at porn, it didn't affect in my mind whether or not he found me attractive. And I can't tell you why my brain didn't link the
Yeah.
two. I guess I'm just lucky in that way. It never did. I think another thing too is I never got the details. I never wanted to know the details
Oh, interesting.
of
Okay.
like what kind of porn he was watching or what kind of women he was watching. So I didn't have to have that in my head, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And so I think those, for whatever reason, I just feel like it didn't affect our sex life. It was always great.
Yeah. And the transparency piece on his part is so interesting. So there wasn't ever a doubt for you like, okay, is he going to be honest if it it went further? Like, some people say it started with porn, then it got into like interactive porn, like the OnlyFans stuff, and then it actually developed into physical affairs because they were meeting people online or whatever. Was there any of that floating around in your head for you, or you're like, no, this is what he says is going on, and this is like what I believe, and that's
Yeah.
it.
The answer is I didn't worry about that. And I think it's for two reasons. Number one, he was always transparent.
Yeah.
And number two, I was naive. Like, let's
Mm.
just be honest. I was naive for a long time. I
Mm.
didn't I didn't even link those two like that. I didn't have that knowledge that it could get worse and worse and he would do this and that.
Okay.
Um, and so those are the reasons why I never worried about it. I do remember, however, we did when we first started couples therapy, had a formal disclosure where
Oh,
I was
okay.
able to ask all the questions because by this time I'd been in 12 step for a while had he. I had a lot of knowledge about the addiction at that point. And so I just wanted to make sure. I didn't think that there were things that he hadn't told me, but I just wanted to make sure. So I
Yeah.
asked him several questions. And again, I didn't want to know details, but I just wanted to know, like, have you ever done anything illegal? Have you ever gone to a strip club? Just like I wanted to know just specific things, and the answer was no to all of them, and I wasn't surprised again because I felt
Right.
like he was always transparent with me. But we did have that formal disclosure with our therapist, just so I could make sure that I knew who he was in that space.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. So 20 years. And then the
Yeah.
first 7 years was you guys, he was kind of DIYing stuff, right? And
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
you got into like all the therapeutic stuff. And you said the last 5 or 6 years has been like kind of this, like a
Great.
different relationship, right? Like
Yeah.
new.
Like even better.
And in that, do you still have moments, if any, where you feel like there's something that happens or you feel triggered by something that kind of puts you back in a past moment for yourself, or do you feel like there's enough time and healing and space between the beginning of this process for you?
100% I still get triggered.
Okay.
It's pretty rare nowadays, but I'd say for me the biggest trigger is when I have to go to talk to Steve about something that's difficult. Sometimes it's still hard for me because I'm like, how is he going to respond?
Yeah.
Even though he's responded so well a million times for the past 6 years, I'm still like, I still have that fear of, is he going to be emotionally abusive? Am I going to have to hold all these boundaries? You know what I mean? So I'll get
Right.
triggered in that way. I don't get triggered. Like he's not perfect. He's had slip ups and he'll tell me about them. That
Yeah.
doesn't trigger me. It's really just, or like if he ever gets in a mode where he's just irritated for whatever reason, like we all do because we're human. He's either tired or work
Right.
is just hard or whatever, I find myself like feeling like, okay, is how is he going to react? Like, is he going to emotionally regulate himself, or what's going to happen here? And
Right.
I get triggered. But now what I do most of the time, because again, I'm not perfect. Most of the time, I'll tell him like, hey, babe. Like for example, we were in the car the other day. It was like 2 days ago, and he had gotten off work early, and there were all these things on my list that I wanted to get done because I have a 6-month-old, and I feel like I can't get anything done in my day, because she's not a great napper. So he's like, "Hey, let me help you." So we start the list. The first is going to the car wash, and I told him I have this goal, like I want to wash our car. We just got this beautiful new family car. Every Monday, I want to wash it and vacuum it so it stays nice. And he's like, great. So we stop at the car wash, we go through it, and then he's driving out past the vacuums. I'm like, babe, you missed the vacuums. And he immediately gets irritated, and he backs up and he starts like swearing, and he pulls in. And I'm like, honey, why are you so irritated? And he's like, I'm just irritated. And I'm like, okay. So we vacuum the car. I'm feeling fear this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, where is this going to go? Is it going to be huge arguments? What's going to happen? And then we get back in the car, and then he's like, babe, I'm really sorry. This is why I'm irritated. It has nothing to do with the vacuum, that the fact that I missed it, and XYZ. And so we were able to talk about it. And
Mm,
that right there is my new husband.
right.
He did not have those skills before to even be mindful enough to be like, oh, it's not about the vacuum, it's about this thing. It's tax season, and I hate taxes because I'm a business owner, and it just
Right.
drives me insane, and I just got off the phone with my accountant. That's what it was.
Right.
And that's what made him irritated. But he, in the past, he didn't have those skills to understand that that's what it was, and to actually talk to me about it and apologize.
Absolutely.
But so yeah, so I was still triggered, but we were able to talk about it, and then it took 10 minutes, and then we were on with our day, and we had a great rest of the day.
Mm,
So
right.
that's what that
Right.
looks like now.
Yes, it's like how those moments are handled. It's not like nothing's ever gonna happen ever again in your marriage. How has this whole experience changed you as a person? I'd imagine your boundaries look different, maybe, I don't know, a deeper connection to, like, your intuition or just anything. Yeah, what are the
Yeah,
biggest things?
100%. It is so crazy. This is what comes to my mind. I remember when I very first started going to my 12-step meeting, I would be in this room with a bunch of, usually all women. Sometimes there are a few men mixed in, but usually all women. And they would talk about how they were so grateful that they had had this challenge in their life because they learned XYZ. And I would sit there and be like, you're friggin' insane. I don't know what you're talking about. I absolutely hate this. I hate that I'm even sitting here because this isn't my thing. I'm not
Yeah,
the one that caused this sort of thing.
right.
But I get it now. I'm now one of those women that I thought I was insane. Because the biggest thing that it's done for me is it's made me get to know who I am and what I'm okay with and not okay with in my life, what I want and what I don't want. Because I, growing up, was a chronic people pleaser.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are chronic people pleasers, I think it's easy for us to forget, like, what do we want?
Right.
Like, what's important to us? And so I learned that. And the biggest thing has been a relationship with my higher power and how they're involved in my life and rebuilding that trust that I lost.
Mm,
I feel like I have this foundation that I can do anything because they're gonna catch me when I fall. Like,
mm,
they're not just gonna leave me to figure it out for myself. It's also given me so much empathy for people. Um, I feel like I'm naturally an empathetic person, but it's giving me even more empathy, just, like, for people in general. Like, you just don't know what people are going through.
right.
A lot
Right.
of people are going through things that are invisible, that we have no idea about. And so I'm
Yeah.
more patient. Like, when someone cuts me off on the road, instead of getting all road ragey, I'm like, whatevs. Like, who knows? Maybe they're having a shitty day. I don't know. It just like rolls off.
Yeah.
Um, and I just enjoy life. I don't know how to say it other than I feel like my life went from hell most of the time with like small bright moments where I'm like, "Oh, this is great." And it's like flip-flopped where like most of my life is I really enjoy it, although sleep deprivation with a newborn is not something I enjoy.
Fair. Understandably.
Right. But even with that, I'm like, there is an end. There's an end.
Yes.
I still like I most of my life is just incredible and I love it. And then but there are small moments where I'm like, "Ooh, this is really hard. I don't like this. It's yucky." But my perspective is I don't feel hopeless. I know that the constant in life is change. We hear that. And I remember my brain works differently now because I could easily get into a hopeless place like this is never going to change. I've dealt with depression and anxiety before. And like even when I did have postpartum depression and anxiety when I had my daughter. Even then, my mind, it's like it literally feels like neurologically, I have a new pathway that when I'm in that place, it's like you won't be here forever. It sucks,
Yeah.
but you won't be here forever. Like you will experience joy again. It's gonna be okay. And I didn't have that before.
Yeah, oh gosh, the experiential empathy. Like you can have empathy and then
Uh-huh.
some huge thing happens in your life, big transformation, and it really just deepens that. And I absolutely resonate with that. As you both started kind of doing this work together and individually, how other things maybe also fell away that maybe you weren't thinking about, like did Steve's gaming habit change, or like certain goals change for both of you, or did something kind of fall away that you didn't realize that you didn't want or need in your life anymore? Just stuff like that that you maybe weren't expecting.
Oh yeah, 100% Steve's gaming changed,
Yeah.
because he realized like, "Oh, I have an addiction there too." So, he's very regulated with his game playing now. I never feel like he overplays. And if I do, like, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's
Right.
like, "Oh, I'm just feeling really frustrated, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "I feel like you've been playing for a long time. Can we do something together?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea." So that's fallen away. I feel like we've reached so many dreams together. Like he has always wanted to own a home, like an older home where he can do therapy out of because he feels like it would make his
Mhm.
clients feel more safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
So, like in February of 2020, we bought this house in the next city over, and it was built in 1907. So we rehabbed it from the bottom up, which is one of my dreams because I love home design and renovations and things like that. So it was like a shared dream, and we did that together. We've been traveling a ton, a lot more because he knows that I love that. So like one of the things we did when I was in my second trimester of pregnancy last year is we went to Europe for 3 weeks because I've
Nice.
always wanted to go to
Cool.
Europe, like all over Europe. And so he's like, "Babe, you're pregnant. It's probably going to be a while before we can like go on a really nice trip and a long trip like this. Let's go to Europe for 3 weeks." And we made it happen. Or
Yeah.
even now that we have a baby, we already have 3 trips lined up with our daughter, things like that.
Yeah.
Or he's always wanted to try all these different hobbies. And now he has like the brain space for it instead of just feeling down all the time and being in porn and gaming. Like, I think for me personally, one of the things I've noticed in my life is it's affected not only my relationship with Steve, it's affected my relationship with people and the world in general. I have way better boundaries with people. I'm no longer a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I have to work on it still, like, "Ooh, I really" like, especially in a professional setting, like, "Ooh, I really wanna people please this person for XYZ reason." But then I'm like, "You know what? Nope, that doesn't matter. I need to be my authentic self." So it's changed that, it's changed my relationship with my own family, um, and I just feel like I'm a healthier individual in general, and I have a healthier relationship with the world in
Yeah.
general. And I feel like I know what's most important to me. I used to have this huge thing, and I know some people struggle with this and some people don't, but I very much had a keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Mm.
Like I have to have this gorgeous house and these cars, and I have to take these trips, and my kids have to go to these schools, and like all these things. Very like type A controlling, I have my shit together personality, and now I don't care. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you are doing that? That's great. I'm happy for you." Um, and I feel like where I'm at right now, I'm happy with what I have, which is a blessing. I'm not constantly comparing myself to other people. like I used to, which it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, very freeing. It's incredible once you figure out like what is actually driving you to do certain things or like not needing certain validation anymore, how incredibly freeing that is. I'm curious to
Hmm.
know if either of you were concerned about addiction transfer or anything like that in the beginning of sobriety for him. Was that not a part of this for you guys?
I learned about addiction transfer, and Steve and I already knew he had a gaming addiction. I didn't really worry that it was going to happen. I just was, I guess I kept we both kept our eyes out for it, I guess is the
Okay.
best way,
Yeah,
because we knew about it. But
absolutely.
luckily that didn't turn out to be a thing.
Yeah, and even if it's like if there's some transfer, maybe it's for some really productive stuff, like, like the home
Right?
renovation and taking you on trips,
Right?
right? Like, okay, we're
Exactly.
cool with these addictions.
Yeah.
Um, how do you handle relapses or potential relapses? You mentioned that, there's a lot of transparency, or maybe you guys have a system or something. Could you share a little bit
Yeah.
about that process for you guys?
Sure. Yeah. So, one of my boundaries that I tinkered with for a while until I figured out what worked for me was, if he ever has a slip or a relapse, and those are two different things for us, and
Okay.
we have a shared definition of what that is, and
Okay.
it's different for everyone. So I'm not going to say this is what a
Yeah.
slip is and this is what a relapse is, but we've decided on what that means for us.
Mm,
My boundary is I want to know within 24 hours. But
mm,
before you tell me, I want you to go and talk to someone, be it your sponsor or a group member or someone about it, and come up with a plan on how to keep yourself safe from that situation in the future so we don't have to repeat it. And then
yeah.
come to me and tell me your plan. And I don't want to know details. I just want to know, just like, hey, I looked at this or this happened. This is what I'm planning to do differently in the future so I don't go back to that. And do you have any questions?
Mm,
That's what that
wow.
looks like. It's a great
Really
boundary
good.
for us. Yeah.
That's really, really smart. Now, how does that emotionally impact you when that does happen? Like, do you feel like you're set back a little bit with that, or are you able to kind of, overcome that quicker, or like, what does that look like on your end?
I don't feel set back.
Mm,
I feel confident is the only way I can put it, because he's doing something that we know works. I
right.
don't have to be his cheerleader. I don't have to be his therapist. I don't have to be the person that he works it out with. I'm
Yeah.
just the person that gets to hear his plan, to keep himself safe. And the only time I think I would maybe start to raise an eyebrow is if it started happening a lot, like in a short period of time. That's never
Okay.
happened. But
Yeah.
say he came to me, like, I don't know, 4 times in a 2-week period, I'd be like, "Hey, babe, what's going on? Like, let's talk about this a little bit more, because you haven't had this issue this often for years and years.
Yeah.
Like, are you super stressed with work? Are you stressed with this? Like, let's talk about it." So that's kind of what that would look like. Um, I wouldn't say I'd go to fear. That would be my first thought to go to. It'd be like something's going on, and let's talk about it and see if I can help him discover it, or we can discover
Mm,
it together.
yeah.
That's a skill that I learned in therapy, because even though I'm a really empathetic person naturally, it was sometimes really hard to have empathy for Steve.
Mm,
And so my therapist taught me the skill where he said, "Hey, when Steve comes to you with whatever he comes to you with, a feeling or whatever, pretend like you are putting on an explorer hat and you are going into the jungle with him to find something. And that's all you're doing. You don't have to agree with him. You don't have to baby him. You don't have to do anything. Just like try to go there with him and try to find it with him." And so
mm.
that's a skill that I learned in therapy that I have had to practice a lot. I've got a lot better at it,
Wow.
because my once I started getting more confident, I would be like, when he would tell me something that I didn't agree with, or he would say something happened some way and I knew it happened another way, I would so I'd get caught up in being right. Like, that's not right. This is how it happened, blah blah blah, which gets you nowhere.
Right.
So it's like, okay, let me hear how you're feeling about this and why you feel like it happened this way, and let's talk about that. And it's been a lot more productive, albeit I had to practice it and I still have to practice it.
Oh, that's such a great way to look at it. It's like it kind of
Yeah.
neutralizes it. Like you guys are like
Yeah.
on this kind of investigation together,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's like the new shared goal of, and it's not
Uh-huh.
like finger pointing and stuff. I love that way of looking at it. Um,
Yeah.
has this experience changed how you feel about porn in general? Do you feel differently about it, like how you felt about it back then versus now, or do you feel pretty similarly about it?
I'm more informed about the industry now.
Yeah,
Um, so I went from thinking like I can't tell you why this is, but I for me it was never about the porn.
right,
It just wasn't. It was
right,
about how it changed my husband's personality.
right,
Obviously, I'm like, that's gross, like whatever. Now I'm more like, I don't like porn because it fuels sex trafficking.
right.
It ruins relationships. It ruins people's brains. Like though I'm like, ooh, it's yucky for those reasons versus
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's yucky because it's yucky.
Mm.
Um, I guess that's the only change I've experienced in that way.
Yeah, I feel like you are so centered in the sense of, you feel very, it seems like you're very neutral about it, which I think is a very valuable perspective, because I do, and everybody's feelings are valid, of course, but it seems like this is what we would be doing for any addiction that you might be experiencing.
I agree. So it is, I mean, it is different than say being addicted to coke or
Right,
heroin or whatever, because it's a
right,
process addiction. Like we as
right.
humans are wired for connection, we're wired to have sexual intimacy. So in that way, it is different. Like I don't have to go shoot up heroin to live life, you know, but
Yeah,
I do have to connect with my partner.
right.
And by connect, I don't just mean sexually. I just mean we're wired for connection as humans. Sex.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a need personally. You don't need, it's not like air or water where you need it to survive, but it's a great part of a relationship, you know? But for me, I feel like for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because the way I was raised where sex was a very open, comfortable subject in my house. It was never taboo. I don't know if that's it, but for me, it was never about that. And I think it's that mixed with the fact that my husband was always transparent with me, and that for whatever reason, I always still felt cherished in our sexual relationship. I don't know. It just affected me a different way than it does for people who maybe don't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that could, I mean, everybody's in a different spot with this, but that could maybe help
Yeah.
people try not to take it personally, in the sense that it could have been, it's a process addiction, so it could have been workaholism or something else, gambling or whatever else. And
Yeah. Or
it's not,
food or whatever.
or food, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not about the person on the other end of it being, not valuable or unattractive or whatever, whatever those feelings
Mhm.
come up. And I think that's a always a kind of a good reminder. You mentioned, this process with Steve, that there was a point where you're like, okay, he's done a lot of work, but I don't feel like he's really maybe getting to the meat of what's going on, or maybe being as introspective as you'd want him to be and that you think is needed. What
Yeah.
was the turning point for that? Like, was it your suggestion, like, "You gotta figure out this shit on a deeper level," or did he have that desire to figure out what was going on with him, and maybe, like, what was happening at that time for you guys?
The fact, I mean, I had told him for a long time, like, hey, I think you've made some great progress, but I'm worried because I don't feel like you've gotten to the meat, which means this may come back, sort of thing. It's not like I hadn't told him that before,
Yeah.
but it was the emotional affair and the fact that that had played such a huge role in me feeling hopeless, where he was like, I see you. I see that's really important, not just for you, but it is important for me. So I
Mm.
am going to do that work. And so he did therapy on his own for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Brittany, I cannot thank you enough for this conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, but is there anything that
Yeah.
we didn't cover that you think is vital for somebody to know, whether it's somebody on either side of this situation
Yeah.
or a couple who's listening to this together, because that does happen as well?
I guess I would just say I know how dark of a place that this can take a relationship. And I know that it can feel hopeless. I've had lots of friends and sponsees um, talk to me about things that have happened, and it feels like maybe life will never get better,
Mm.
but it does. I just want to give that hope. And whether that's you repairing and restoring your current relationship, or whether that's you releasing the relationship and doing something else, there is hope on the other side. I just want to leave you with that, because sometimes it's hard to remember that. It's hard
Yeah.
to feel and believe that, but there is a life on the other side that is better than you can imagine. That's been my experience, and the experience of several women that I've worked with or had the pleasure of knowing who end up releasing that relationship. And maybe they never get remarried, or maybe they get remarried. It doesn't really matter, but the personal growth that comes with this, dealing with this kind of thing, has only led me to have a better, more fulfilling, joyful, amazing life.
Incredible. Is there
Yeah.
anywhere that you want to like send people to? Obviously, I respect your privacy as well. I mean, some people
Sure.
share their website or Instagram, or they direct them to a resource. I just want to give you an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I have an Instagram, but I don't use it. So I'm just not into social media. I guess I'm
Same.
old school for whatever reason. I'm just not. So I don't have anywhere that you can see me personally. But I would say, if you haven't tried it out, I recommend trying Essanon. And you can find a group near you. They're all over the world, in person, on the phone, virtual. And you can just go to essanon.org to find that information. Or for an addict, it's sa.org, or any other traditional 12-step program. There are a lot of them out there. Those are just the ones that Steve and I happen to be in. If you're not seeing a therapist and you want to see a therapist, I really recommend seeing a therapist that is a CSAT, which is a certified
Right.
sexual addiction therapist. And if you want to find one of those near you, they're also all around the world. It's a very specialized training that a therapist does on top of being a therapist. So, like, they'll go to school. My husband's a CSAT, and then it's literally like a 2-year master's degree on top of the master's degree. So they know what they're talking
Wow.
about, I guess is what I'm talking about. But if you
Yeah.
go to iitap.com, you can find a CSAT therapist there.
Thanks for hanging out with Self-Helpless. Feel free to share this with someone who could use it, and you can binge related conversations linked in the show notes. Ad-free episodes are now available on Patreon, and because I'm practically allergic to social media, the best way to get notified about new episodes is to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or join the email list at selfhelplesspodcast.com, where you will also find some free goodies like a watch and read list and the quote buffet. All right, love you big time, and thank you so much.